Uncut, uncensored. Welcome to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk, joined once again by Mr. Joker himself, Danny Miller. Danny, how's it going tonight?
I'm doing good. Now you and I, evidently, we inadvertently matched this evening. And when I say inadvertently, I truly mean inadvertently. So to kind of let people behind the scenes here, you and I, we get on and we discuss show ideas. And we talk pre-show a little bit about what we're going to talk about. And we did that tonight, and we were talking about, what we're going to talk about tonight, which is, some Six Flags discussions for 2018. And, I've been busy. I had a busy last couple of weeks, and I'm putting some pictures onto my computer and onto my external hard drive and kind of updating my coaster spreadsheet. And at no point did I notice that you were wearing a Joker t-shirt. So when I went into my room to get out of, just my dry fit t-shirt that I just wear around the house to put on my coaster shirt, I said, we're going to talk about Six Flags. And, we're going to talk about, we think maybe some more free flies are coming. So I'll put on my Joker shirt. And only when I sat down realized you had your Six Flags Great America Joker shirt on. I had put on my Six Flags Great Adventure Joker shirt on. So if you can't figure it out by the title in the first 2 minutes of the show here, we're going to be talking about Six Flags and their 2018 editions because, Andy, as you're going to tell us here, some interesting, news or some interesting information, you could say, came out this past week at CoasterCon, the American Coaster Enthusiast event, which was held down there in Texas. Six Flags Fiesta Texas. I know there was an event at ZDT's as well. SeaWorld San Antonio. Those were kind of the host parks this year. And they got some very interesting information while they were down there.
So down there, the keynote speaker for CoasterCon this year was John Duffy, the new CEO of Six Flags.
Six Flags, man.
Yes, of last year's 2017 announcements. So he gave a keynote address. He talked about a whole bunch of stuff, about how they're trying to improve the parks, about how they're expanding overseas. A lot of interesting stuff there. He talked for about 20 minutes or so and then did a Q&A. But in there, he dropped the bombshell that Six Flags would be getting 5 record breakers, or first of its kind in North America, rides, not coasters, but rides for 2018. So that got me and Danny thinking, well, what are these 5 things going to be? Like, what are the record breakers? What are the first for North America? How is this actually going to play out?
Well, that's the problem.
Well,
that's the problem, because when Cedar Fair did this, Cedar Fair told us, hey, we're doing 4 coasters, and this is kind of what each one of them is going to be. This was much more generic. So it's kind of like, we don't even know if they're roller coasters. We don't know. And he was like, they're going to be record breakers or firsts. Like, it's like, we don't know anything. So you and I wanted to devise a scheme here that's going to be proven wrong several times over.
So the problem is that we sat down for the last few hours or so, and literally we've been talking for a few hours here already, trying to figure out what these 5 things are going to be, and basically our answer is that it's very nebulous here, very, very unsure. But I said to Danny, I think the best way to tackle this is just the way that we tackled the Cedar Fair problem, and maybe look at what each park in the Six Flags chain needs and what we think that they might get and how maybe these records play into that. So I think here at this point, I say, let's go right into it and look at what we think each park's going to get. Let's start with Magic Mountain. Let's start out west and work our way east, because it might be a little interesting to do it that way. Magic Mountain. Now, the only thing that popped into my mind is that Magic Mountain does not have a skyscraper of any kind at this point. And I said it'd be very easy to maybe capture a record there by installing the tallest skyscraper. That the last 2 tall ones were installed at Over Texas and in New England, both of which were how tall, did you say?
I think I think with the big flag tower that's on top, it's actually 400 feet. I don't know if the swings actually go that high. But they claim them as 400 feet. So I could easily see them going to like a height of 420 or like a 450 or like a somewhere in there just to claim that they have the tallest. Or, I know Six Flags Over Texas, the Texas Skyscraper, the 400-footer. And then when they did the one at Six Flags New England, they still claimed it as the tallest in the world, which I guess technically isn't wrong. So they may just go 400 feet and say it's the tallest swing. And you kind of led into the idea of maybe it's a replacement for the Sky Tower, which hasn't been used in several years there. Or maybe, maybe they replaced the Sky Tower with it. I don't know what kind of process that did, because the Sky Tower is kind of inside the first drop of Tatsu, so I feel like it'd be very difficult. They haven't used that for years, but if you put it on top of that hill there, you could maybe have like the Marineland effect, and maybe you could claim it as like the highest swing ride or something. I don't know if you could make such a claim. Stratosphere might have something to say about that, but I think there's something there, and it'd be an easy record for them to go at, and they could really pull that in to the marketing point of how they're the thrill capital of the world, with the most roller coasters and all that. So adding another, dimension to that marketing scheme is something I could see happening.
Well, and definitely if they went 420 like you suggested, that would fit right into California, I think. That number would probably play well with that crowd out there.
Well,
So
they're going to make it 421 just because.
Yeah, so that's what I don't see Magic Mountain getting anything else. They just got, like you said, Twisted Colossus a few years back, another coaster, even though it seems like they've been kind of neglected lately. Like, I think a lot of people feel that way. They got the Justice League ride this year. I just feel like a coaster might not be in the works this year for Magic Mountain. So maybe the Skyscraper, and they just built one at America this year, so it's not like they're done with the Skyscrapers yet. And coincidentally, they also put one in Valley Fair this year. I know it's Cedar Fair, but Valley Fair put in the Skyscraper.
Yeah, and Magic Mountain has had a pretty decent run here in the recent years. They're getting Justice League this year. What did they do last year? 2016. I can't remember what they did in 2016 off the top of my head. But 2015 they did Twisted Colossus. 2013 they did Full Throttle. So I mean they've had a pretty steady steady feed of big rides and big coasters here. So I could see them maybe, going, they're going big, but it's really a mid-sized investment because you're not doing a big giant roller coaster again with a Skyscraper.
So the next park up is Discovery Kingdom. We both agreed we don't see a lot going there. Maybe a flat ride package, maybe some flats, maybe, one of those spins, maybe, they just put a disco in St. Louis, but they already have the extended disco there. So I don't know. Anything could go there. Yeah. I don't think it plays into this. Moving on to Six Flags Mexico, we said that maybe they would get one of the free flies, and you said that they could use an interesting marketing campaign here, maybe.
Yeah, so my thought here as we went through the park, so we actually kind of had the same thought between not only Six Flags Mexico, but also La Ronde up in Montreal. And these are two prime candidates for maybe some 4D free fly coasters. We think that, the Skyscrapers really, went for a few years, and those are kind of winding down now. They're just, they just did the one at America. But, there were a couple of years there where a couple different parks got Skyscrapers, and then we kind of went into the whole Larson Looper fad. I think that's kind of toning down a little bit. Then the new one we figured would kind of be these 4D free fly coasters because we saw 3 last year. So we think that we might see, 2 or 3 more this year. Six Flags Mexico would be a great spot for one from a marketing perspective because I believe they could probably claim it as Latin America's first 4D free fly coaster, much in the same way that they did when they built the first one in Six Flags Fiesta Texas. And with when they did Medusa Steel Coaster, they claim that as Latin America's first hybrid coaster. So they have used the Latin America's first, marketing ploy, if you will, before. So I could see them going back to that. Best of luck figuring out what the hell they're going to call it, though, because they already have a Batman the Ride, they already have a Superman ride, and they already have a spinning coaster called the Joker. So you and I were kind of debating where they would go with a name/theme for that. I don't know, and that's going to get into another park we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But I thought maybe they could go Green Lantern because they already have the Green Lantern First Flight name at Magic Mountain with the Intamin Zack Spin out there, very similar ride. So I could see them going Green Lantern there. And then I also threw out the possibility of La Ronde also getting one of these free flies because they could kind of use that same, that same tactic and call it Canada's first 4D free fly coaster. And right there becomes two North American firsts. And, it's kind of weird that they phrase that, right? It wasn't world's first or, the first in the U. It's North American first, which makes me think they're going to play into the actual country because technically Canada's first would – I don't know if you consider that, meeting the criteria that they've stated, but right there is an easy way to get two of these 5 records we're looking at, and it also accounts for 2 parks that we think at some point might be pegged to get these 4D free flight coasters, especially since La Ronde is taking out the stand-up coaster, Le Cobra. It's a decent sized plot of land. It's not huge, but it's large enough that you could comfortably fit one of these coasters and, a nice entrance area and it's right next to the Batman clone there. I don't know what they would call it up there because it seems like they've kind of stayed away from the actual DC licenses there, except for the Flash Pass. The rides themselves,
I got it. Wait, I gotta look it up though. I got it.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Andy's got an idea.
Maybe, oh my goodness. Let's see. I gotta go to my translator. Okay, I gotta go to my translator.
Because Le Vampire is French Canadian for the Batman, evidently.
So yeah, exactly.
And Le Boomerang.
So I want to go. I want to go
for the Boomerang.
And I want to change this into French now. Oh yeah, it's coming. I took French for 4 years,
guys.
So it's le pitre, which means the clown in French. So you could have the vampire and the clown, and you could keep le pitre. I know people love my French accent.
I don't know that they do, actually.
They do.
So I don't know. We'll see where that goes. I mean, they very easily could have done. And I don't know how long has La Ronde actually been a Six Flags park?
For a while, since I've been studying.
I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it's actually been a Six Flags park, but so I don't know. That's an easy way for them to get to. And while we're on the subject of the 4D free flies, do you want to kind of go out of order here and talk about the third one? Because we did think that there's probably at least one more coming here.
We said at least one more. We said we feel that Six Flags St. Louis would get a 4D free fly, mainly because the rumor on the street was that Great America's free fly, the Joker that they got this year, was actually supposed to go to St. Louis this year, and Great America wasn't supposed to get it at all. But the Great America people, the higher ups, really petitioned to get it, and it went there. It's been a pretty big success. So maybe next year St. Louis finally gets theirs, the one they were supposed to get. But then also there's the rumor that Over Georgia could get a Joker free fly, but they couldn't call it Joker there either, like you mentioned. They can't call it Batman.
Well,
they can't call it Joker.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Because they already have the Joker Chaos Coaster, the Larson Looper. Yeah. They have the Joker Funhouse Coaster, which is the old Wile E. Coyote Canyon Blaster. They have a Batman the Ride, so they can't use any of the names. So that's where I came up with the idea of the whole Green Lantern thing.
Yes.
And how they might start to roll this out as a Green Lantern ride. But then you and I kind of started to, we said, well, will they really do 4 of them? Maybe 3 is kind of the right number. So we kind of said St. Louis and kind of ruled out over Georgia. And we ruled out over Georgia first in particular because just this morning, actually, Screamscape posted some pictures of earlier reports that there were some paint markings found on and around the area surrounding Georgia Cyclone. So we think that maybe, as I know you'd be fine with it, but it would actually pain me a bit to see the Georgia Cyclone get its form changed. I'm a big fan of the Georgia Cyclone, and if that ride were to close, I would have to make an effort to get down there for it. I hope it closes sometime. If it does close, I hope it closes sometime in August, because if it's open in August at some point, I can still get down there to ride it. But this is really, not to foreshadow here, but Six Flags Over Georgia was kind of the only place that we saw maybe a potential for a big record-breaking coaster itself that wasn't one of these gimmicky records. We thought maybe if they did like the most inversions on a hybrid coaster, which is still a pretty gimmicky record, but I think it's a little bit better than Canada's first 4D free fly coaster. Not considering Mean Streak, they'd have to go at least 4 inversions, and I don't know if you'd be able to get that in a ride the size of Georgia Cyclone. That's where we kind of got hung up on this one.
Well, and the problem is we released a Beat the Beast episode just recently as well, and kind of the problem is it's like, how many coasters is RMC going to physically do next year? We already have 2 for Cedar Fair. We suspect that there's one more. We said maybe Hershey, maybe Kennywood. That every park underneath the sun right now is claiming an RMC coaster, and Georgia Cyclone.
Maybe that's why Mean Streak and Hurler have had track on site for so long. They needed to get ahead because they're doing all these 4D free fly coasters on top of it.
That irritates me, because I said that to you, maybe even on the air, and you're like, no. You're like, no, that's not correct. That's not why. And all of a sudden, you like the idea,
yeah, I know.
and all of a sudden, you're bringing it up. That's bullshit, Danny Miller. That's
you like
bullshit.
how I kept a straight face when I said that, too?
I said that months ago, and you're like, no, that's not right. They're going to be building it all the way. Whatever, dude. So, yeah.
Well,
so
it makes sense now that I said it.
Well, yeah. Well, absolutely, for sure. So, and like you said, I would not be opposed to Georgia Cyclone getting the RMC treatment. My issue comes in is, how many times is RMC the go-to response? I don't know. It could be in this case. If they're running 4 projects, it makes sense that you have the 2 Cedar Fair projects. You have the third maybe Raptor track project or T-Rex track project, and then you would have a 4th Georgia Cyclone project. It could make sense if none of that other stuff is true. If the Hershey Park stuff is true, if the Silverwood stuff isn't true, if any of the other...
A lot of people say that the Hershey and Kennywood stuff is 2019. A lot of people are saying that the Hershey and Kennywood stuff might be 2019. The Hershey stuff, I think, is definitely 2019. The Kennywood... People seem to be going back and forth with that, but we had been hearing a lot about the Silverwood.
Yeah.
About the Silverwood idea.
Yeah. And then people keep bringing
that's kind
in...
of died down lately, but...
People keep bringing in Kaga and Knott's, too, for the RMC Raptor track concept, and it's just like... Every single place.
They can't all get one, folks. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's saying, oh, they're getting a T-Rex, they're getting an RMC, and it's like they did 4 in 2016, and they said that was too much. So, we're expecting to see 3 in 2018. So, and we already know of 2 of them. So there's only really going to be one more, probably in addition to the free flies. And we're probably only going to see 2 or 3 of these free flies. So we kind of went out of order there, but we tried to relate it together. So get us back on track.
So let's just go through some of these other less boring ones. We said New England. New England's probably going to do some sort of flat ride, something small. I don't foresee New England getting anything. The issue there, like you said, is the space issue of where do you put anything you get. I don't see anything going in big.
There's not a whole lot of room.
Yeah. So New England, I would not expect anything big or adventurous. Great Escape, the only thing we hear coming out of Great Escape is recently people have said that they've seen permits to actually remove Rolling Thunder out of the park, Alpine bobsleds out of the park. I like to call it Rolling Thunder. From back in the day. But I don't know. It's a pretty big ride. I don't know what you replace there.
That rumor's been around for a long time, though. And maybe they're finally going to act on it. Maybe that's the point of the permit. But that's always been a rumor floating around there. It's closed a lot, especially because of the cold weather. And, a lot of people that are close to that park say that it's always more trouble than it's worth, and they never really found it worth the time to move over there. So, that could be, and that takes up a decent spot of land.
Yeah.
I don't know quite what you do with it. Maybe you put a bunch of flat rides in. Maybe you put 40 free fly in there at some point. I don't know.
Why not?
That's the kind of park where something like that would seem to fit.
Yeah.
You would think. It makes more sense in a smaller park like that, but I don't know. That's, maybe you see something a little bit newer there. Maybe you see like a Tempesto, phobia type coaster there.
So the next two kind of go together as well. The first one was Six Flags America. And we mentioned on an update show a while back that we thought that V2 might be leaving this season to move over to Six Flags America from Great America, continuing the grand tradition of taking old rides from Great America and sending them to America because they're no longer great.
They're no longer great.
Yeah. So but this, a lot of people came down on us, but we still keep hearing this rumor. And I don't know if it's from us or from somewhere else, but we keep hearing the rumor that V2 is moving to Six Flags America, and it would play into the idea that we think that Great America might be getting a flat ride package too. And the question is, where do you put it? Well, if you're building up that whole Gotham City area, you have Batman, you have Joker, V2 is right there in that same general position. You could put some maybe flat rides over there. And try and clear out some space and redesign that whole area to make it more Gotham City-y. I think that works. I would love to see one of the new Enterprise models that we saw down at Over Texas move to Great America. I think that concept looks really, really cool. They just got rid of their old Orbit, which was a smaller Enterprise model, which I hated. I hate those small little cars. I hated that ride, and they took it out. They got rid of it. So that's cool. They moved a different ride over there. The problem with the flat ride packages is they already have a pendulum ride. It's an older model with the inner seated cars or seats. They already have the pendulum. They got rid of their Orbit. What was the third flat ride that Over Texas got?
They got the Troika, which was the Harley Quinn's Insanity.
Yeah, and they already have a Troika,
and then they got the Enterprise, and they got the Giant Discovery.
So technically, 2 out of the 3 they already have. Now, granted, their pendulum ride at Great America is terrible. They could easily put in, maybe that's one of the records, put in the tallest pendulum ride or the biggest pendulum ride. That would actually go over pretty well at that park, I think. I think that's one of the things that park is missing. Get rid of the old Revolution ride in County Fair. So I see flat rides there too. I don't see anything huge. So getting into our last 3 parks here. Now this is where we're really getting into the nitty-gritty to try and figure things out. I came up with the idea that maybe Over Texas and Great Adventure will be getting water coasters. That we know in Fiesta Texas, the water coaster seems to be a pretty big hit. What if they tried to do a different model and try and take the record from Schlitterbahn with Massive, who has the tallest water coaster that's only like 81 feet in the air. It's not even that tall. It seems
like a reachable plateau.
Yeah, definitely. So you could take the tallest water coaster, and the Texas parks are always in competition with Schlitterbahn down there. So if Over Texas, now I'm not saying they would clone what they have at Fiesta Texas, that wouldn't make much sense, I think. But if they built something completely new and set a record with their water coaster, that would put them in competition with Schlitterbahn. Right. And to me, it makes sense for Great Adventure too, because Great Adventure's water park is something I rarely hear anything about.
Yeah, Great Adventure Great Adventure focuses so much on the ride side of the park. And, it's funny because I don't know if it was today or if it was over the weekend. It might have been over the weekend that I saw a tweet from them where their water park was actually closed because it was at capacity. So apparently it does good business on the hot weekends, like most water parks would. But every time I go there, it just looks really, old, and like a lot of the slides are older with the wooden structure. The only real thing that looks new and shiny there is that King Cobra water slide that they put in there. I think that was like 5 years ago now. I think that was 2012, around there. So I could see them going this whole water coaster route to really re-energize the water park. Now, I've always said every time we go to Holiday World that, if more water parks had water coasters, pro-slide water coasters, I would probably go to water parks a little bit more. I don't know if I'm going to, spend the time at Great Adventure to go to the water park to ride one water coaster, but I would certainly have to think about it. Mm-hmm. So I can see that happening. Over Texas, same thing. It's hot down there. That's why, Fiesta Texas got one. Certainly a good candidate, a much better candidate than like a Six Flags Great America or Six Flags New England that has a much shorter season. It makes sense to make a bigger water park investment into your water parks that are going to have the longer seasons.
And you know what? Fiesta Texas almost seems to be like the testing ground all of a sudden that they got the free fly first.
Yeah.
Then out of nowhere, nobody was predicting water coaster at Fiesta Texas for this season. No one saw that coming.
No.
So now it's almost like, well, why not start putting that other places that, they tested at Fiesta. Fiesta has a really good market, and they start moving it other places. So maybe we got the parks wrong here. Maybe it's not Over Texas. Maybe it's not Great Adventure. But I do think we're going to see some water coasters from Pro Slides in this year's lineup at Six Flags. I think it's a guaranteed. I'd be almost shocked with the response that came out of Fiesta. So I guess with our last park here, speaking of Fiesta Texas, I think it makes sense that this is the park where you see the really big splash that they're going to build a brand new roller coaster at Fiesta Texas. Now, once again, you can go a number of different routes here. Because do you set records with this coaster? I don't know because there's always been that plan to do the GCI down at Fiesta, of the old, what was it, the airplane or I forgot what that was.
Or something similar to it, yeah.
Yeah, something like that where you would have this general, and, I even suggested at one point that you do a Batman-styled, wood coaster, but obviously that's off the table now with the Batman Free Fly. So the question is it GCI? Is it RMC? Is this where your RMC is actually going, either with a ground up wood coaster, or do they try out the new steel track there, either Raptor or T-Rex? And you even brought up Intamin, but we couldn't think of what records you could actually capture with an Intamin coaster. I don't know.
Well, and it makes me wonder. So we've heard about the GCI going to Fiesta Texas for a while. It would make more sense for it to be GCI, even if it was smaller, like a White Lightning-sized ride, just because they've got so many rides that go upside down. Between Superman, which has 6 inversions, Iron Rattler has the 1, Poltergeist that is 4, you have your Boomerang, you have the Batman, Free Fly, which does, they say it does 6 inversions. Aside from the Mine Train and the Kiddie Coaster, am I missing another coaster in that lineup? They're really kind of missing a roller coaster that doesn't go upside down, a good sized roller coaster that doesn't go upside down.
And Danny, you forgot about the Fireball that goes upside down a number of times. That roller coaster does invert quite a few times as well.
There you go. Andy's Larson Luber also does some inversions. Doesn't always do the same amount of inversions depending on the ride operator and how he controls that joystick. But,
no, it doesn't. No.
So So, it seems a GCI would seem to make sense there, because then you could have a good-sized coaster that doesn't have inversions. It doesn't have that intimidation factor of having the inversions.
Yeah. Plus, they don't have a wood coaster.
That would make some sense. Yeah, they don't have a wood coaster, exactly. So that would seem to make some sense. That would seem to make a lot of sense there, actually. The question is, can you pull a record out of that? And I don't know if you can actually pull a record out of that, which is why we came up with the idea that a potential Georgia Cyclone RMC would have to set some sort of wonky record in order for us to get to these 5. So what did we finally? So did we get all 5 of our records in now? We talked about the Magic Mountain.
Yeah, we have the Sky Screamer for Magic Mountain. We got the 2 Jokers with the 4-in records for the free flies. We said possibly the tallest water coaster being installed somewhere. Right. We said that. We said possibly the record of inversions for Georgia Cyclone. And we also said, I threw in there the possible tallest, biggest pendulum ride for Great America, too. That might work in somehow if you could find an area for that. I don't think any of those records are all that exciting, though. And I think John Duffy might have been a little misleading here when he said, 5 record-breaking firsts. I don't know if people are really going to get really behind this unless there's some big surprise, unless there's a Raptor track. And I don't know if I'm so excited about Raptor track either, to be completely honest with you. I'm not buying into that system just yet. I don't know if there's a record here that I can say, oh my God, that's really something I got to go ride today.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like potentially the most exciting record out of here would be a potential Georgia Cyclone RMC, but as I stated before, I like the Georgia Cyclone, so I'm not gonna sit here and try and tell you that it may not be a better ride if they do the Iron Horse treatment to it. That's not it. It's me being the wood coaster guy and liking that the Georgia Cyclone beats you up a little bit. And has some pretty damn good airtime in that back car.
I got news for you.
I'd hate to see it go,
Viper.
But at the same time,
instead. I'll invite you to Chicago. You can go to Great America. Ride
Georgia
Viper.
Cyclone is way better than Viper.
Get out of here. You're out of your mind.
So Georgia Cyclone is way better than Viper. They should RMC Viper instead.
I'm not contesting
Georgia
that.
Cyclone the way it is.
I think they should RMC every wood coaster besides maybe a few.
Well, okay. So hold on. Okay. So here's another thought for you. Here's another thought, because they've already done it partially. What if the markings on Georgia Cyclone aren't for an Iron Horse, but it's for a complete topper track redo? Because they already have topper track on a lot of different parts of it. What if they're just going to do the whole thing?
To be honest, I don't think it changes. I don't think
that's all that is.
I don't think that ride changes enough unless you do complete topper track and change the trains on it, because it's too damn rough the way it is. I'm sorry. Wood coasters can be rough up to a point, but that one does not do anything for me whatsoever. It just doesn't. My last ride on it a few years ago was absolutely horrible.
Well, most coasters don't.
So
most coasters don't do a whole lot for you unless
I have a high
green.
standard. I don't give out 4 stars and 3 stars like candy like some of us do.
Oh boy! So we came up with 5 records there at least, and I think it's more of what we've come to expect from Six Flags, and I think we're kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe 1 or 2 of them might be somewhat noteworthy. But generally speaking, I think most of these are, records or firsts, we're thinking are going to be pretty standard for what we've seen from Six Flags the last couple years. But you threw out the idea out there, maybe, John Duffy, the new guy driving the ship here, maybe he's going to come in and maybe the philosophy is going to change on how we're going to invest our money. And, rather than doing small investments, here and there and trying to do stuff at every park. Maybe we'll do stuff at every park, but maybe we'll go back to doing one or two big investments in the chain. Even 5 years ago, like we did when we saw X-Flight, and maybe we'll start to see more rides along those lines.
And I'll say it's very easy to start capturing records for B&M. That you can easily capture the tallest B&M dive coaster, the tallest wing coaster, the most inversions on those things. And B&M's kind of quiet right now. Where Cedar Fair, it doesn't seem, is working with B&M currently. Is this a move for Six Flags to get back into the B&M business, which I don't think is a bad move for the chain. I just think that, the way they've been going
pretty well for Cedar Fair.
Exactly. And the way that Six Flags has been going, I think people are getting a little fed up with all these little coasters going in and the RMC and the free flies. And I think they've kind of, run their course here with these items. I think this year, we're still going to see a lot of flats, a lot of free flies. But after this year, I don't know where the chain goes. So if this actually comes to pass, I don't know where the chain goes after this, because you are now out of all these little coasters. So you either have to develop a new concept, or you have to start looking at things like dive coasters and wing coasters. And I think small dive coasters would be awesome in many different Six Flags parks. Like, I'm not saying you got to go 300 feet tall.
I mean, give us the Croquets, give us the Baron 1898. Give us some of those, because over here, all we've got in the States right now, we've got the big boys, right? We've got the Griffins, the Sheikas, the Valravens. Give us some of the smaller ones. Give us the Oblivion, the Black Holes. Give us the Oblivions. Give us those. Give them some more substance too.
And the same thing goes for, like your hyper coasters, your wing coasters, your flying coasters. There are so many parks out there that don't have these items, that don't have these models, that could use stuff like this. That, there's so many parks that could use a wing rider to vary up what they have inside the park. So, I think moving into the future, I think Six Flags is going to be very interesting. Also interesting is a lot of, like I mentioned at the top of the show, a lot of those foreign parks, if you look at the renderings, a lot of them are using these same concepts, the free flies. I saw in the one Chinese park, or it might have been the Dubai park that had a Joker free fly in it. I'm just like, oh, okay, here we go again. So hopefully they break out of this mold and start working with some other companies, and we start seeing some other really innovative stuff besides clones all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. So, we'll have to keep an eye on this, and you can be sure that as rumors start to come out, as we start to get maybe some trademarks and maybe some blueprints leak, we'll probably be doing a lot of COASTER-net updates on some of these, and maybe more shows, full uncut shows, if we get some really good news. But there is certainly, they've kind of, John Duffy kind of threw the stone into the pond here, and now we're starting to see the ripple effects, so now we're going to have to see where they end up going.
Well,
what comes out of the water.
As always, thank you for joining us here tonight on COASTER-net Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
And as always, ride on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time, guys.